All right, guys, this is the video for solving quadratic equations by factoring. I'm going to move pretty quick, so if I go too quickly, just pause the video so you can get all the notes down. But here are the 3 steps you need to copy down and follow, basically the process you go through in solving quadratic equations. So we're solving for x, something you've done a lot in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. So let's look at the examples. We're going to skip number 1 for right now. We're going to come back to that one at the end. But let's start example number 2. So we're going to solve this problem. So let's follow the steps from above. And the first step is to set this equation to equal to 0. So to set it equal to 0, everything has to be on one side. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this positive 56 to the left side. Of course, we don't have any like terms on the left side, so we can't actually combine them. But all we did was move positive 56 to the left side. It's now become negative 56. So step 1 is finished. We've set it equal to 0. Step 2 is you need to factor this. So factor x squared minus x minus 56. I'm going to put the first term in the first box and the last term in the last box. We're looking for 2 numbers that multiply together to give us negative 56 and add together to give you negative 1. Those 2 numbers are negative 8 and positive 7. So those numbers go in the box, and they go in as x's, and then you just take the GCF of each row and each column. This you've all done before. So the factored version of this problem is x minus 8, x plus 7 equals 0. If the problem said the factor, we'd be finished, but we've got one additional step, and it's to solve this. This was a degree 2 problem, so that means there will be 2 solutions. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the first factor equal to 0, and we're going to set the second factor equal to 0. Solve these for x, add 8 to both sides. X equals 8 is a solution. And x equals negative 7 is a solution as well. So we've solved for x for this problem. Set equal to 0, factor, and then solve. So let's go on to the next page and do a couple more. Example number 3 here. So same thing, first step, get it equal to 0. So I'm going to move 2x to the left side. It's positive on the right side, which means it'll be negative on the left. And I'm also going to subtract 7. 7's positive on the right, so it's going to be negative on the left. Cross out your like terms. So we've got 6x squared. Negative 11 minus 2 is negative 13x. 2 minus 7 is negative 5. So we've got all our like terms on the left side. We've got equal to 0. Now go ahead and factor 6x squared minus 13x minus 5. There's no GCF, so you're going to do it the same way. 3 terms. So 6x squared in the top left, negative 5 in the bottom right. Don't forget this step. Take the first number, multiply it by the last. You're looking for 2 numbers that multiply together to give you negative 30 and add together to give you negative 13. Those 2 numbers are negative 15 and positive 2. Be careful, negative 10 and negative 3 don't work because they multiply together to give you a positive 30. So negative 15x goes here. It doesn't really matter. It can go in either box. Positive 2x goes there. And then take the GCF of each row and each column. The GCF of this row is going to be 3x. 3 goes into 6 and negative 15. The GCF of the second row has nothing in common, so you can factor out a positive 1. First column, you can take out a 2x. Second column, you can take out a negative 5. So the factors for this problem are 3x minus 1 and 2x minus 5. And our last step, to solve for x to get our two solutions. Set each factor equal to 0 to get your two solutions. This time you're going to get fractions because you've got to add 1 to both sides and then divide both sides by 3. So x equals 1/3. Probably just keep that in fraction form is one answer. On the other side, you're going to add 5 to both sides and divide by 2. So x equals 5/2, or you could say 2.5. There's your two answers. All right, so real quick, we're going to do example 4 in just a second. But if we go back to example 1, you'll have some problems like this that are already factored. So you do not need to multiply these together. They've already done the first two steps for you. So all you've got to do in this problem is set your two factors equal to 0 and solve both of these for x. We tend to want to try to do something to these problems, but there's really not much to be done if they're already factored. Remember, we're solving, not just factoring. So there's your two answers to example 1. All right, so let's finish with example 4. I encourage you to pause the video. Try to start this one, see how far you can get. You need to get your like terms together. You can do that a couple different ways. But pause the video, try example 4 on your own. So I chose to move everything from the right side to the left side in this problem. So that means I'm going to add 12x squared to both sides. I'm going to subtract 17x from both sides. And I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. That zeroes out the right side. In the left side, we've got negative 7x squared plus 12x squared. So that's 5x squared. 2 minus 17x is negative 15x. And negative 198 minus 2 is negative 200. Now you may see this right off the bat and go straight to the box method, which you could do. The only problem is you're going to get a really big number in this problem when you take the first number and multiply it by the last. So what you should recognize is you have a GCF in this problem. So you can factor out a GCF of 5 because 5 goes into all three of those terms. So factor out a 5. So we're just dividing these three terms by 5. It's going to make this problem actually a lot easier. So that leaves us with x squared minus 3x minus 40. Since the 5 does not have an x in it, and our goal here is to solve these problems, we don't really even need it in the problem anymore. All we need to do now is factor x squared minus 3x minus 40. Let's go ahead and pause the video and factor that using the box method and then solve that problem. So here's what you should have gotten to go in the box. X squared in the first box, negative 40 in the last. Negative 8 plus 5 gives you negative 3. And negative 8 times 5 is negative 40. And then factor out the GCF. So the factors for this problem are x plus 5 and x minus 8. Your final step is to set each one of those factors equal to 0. So we may get to this point where you don't really need to show this last step here. But x equals 8 is one solution, negative 5 is the other. All right, so finish with example number 5, the your turn here at the bottom. Go ahead and see if you can work this one out. Pause the video, and I'll show the first part of the answer in just a second. So this is what you should get for step 1, getting it equal to 0. So your next goal, there's no GCF, use box method to factor that. That's what should go in the box. 4 minus 1 is 3. 4 times -1 is -4. So those are your factors, 2x minus 1 and x plus 2. Again, all this factoring material we've covered in Algebra 2 and in Advanced Math. The last step is the only new thing. Set each factor equal to 0 to get your two solutions. Add 1 to both sides. So we get 2x equals +1. Divide both sides by 2. You're going to get 1/2, or 0.5. And -2 is the other answer. All right, so there's a worksheet for you to complete. Turn in these completed notes and your worksheet today or the next class if you are working on a test.